Welcome to my second live of the day. Actually, technically, not my second, more than that, because I think I stopped a couple times and restarted. Again, not something I usually do, more than one live in a day. So I apologize if I'm bothering anybody on their Saturday, but this is kind of important to me, and I wanted to get a word out about the news of Israel being at war. I did a live earlier and went into a class, and in that class someone told me that Israel had gone to war with Hamas, and I felt compelled to share some information that God shared with me 23 years ago, and hopefully help people better prepare for what's coming next. So before we get into it, again, do me a favor, drop a comment, say hello, let me know that you were here, even whether you're watching the live or you're watching the replay. Let me know that you saw this, and even if you only saw part of it. And if you have any questions about anything I say, feel free to leave them in the comments, or you can private message me, and I'll try to get back to you and answer them. So I'm going to try to be as brief as possible, because I've said some of these things before, and but I know I have new people following me all the time, and maybe they've never heard me talk about this, and maybe it'll hit somebody in a different way that has been following for some length of time, and they'll take action. So that's my hope. So going back 23 years ago was when I met the Lord. I had a radical encounter with him. I got baptized in the Holy Spirit, is what they call it, March 21st of the year 2000, 23 years ago. And during that experience, God revealed some things to me. I started prophesying, is what they call it. I don't know if I knew the word at the time. I just knew that God was telling me things about the future that would happen. And I've shared those things with hundreds, if not thousands, of people since then, hoping that people will take that information and use it. And what I said in an email I just sent out is, we may not be able to spare some of the suffering that we're going to have to go through as believers leading up to the end times, leading up to the second coming, is really what we're talking about. Jesus is coming back at some point. But we can lessen some of the suffering, I believe, by using wisdom and being prepared. So some of what I'm going to say might scare you, but the worst thing you can do is panic. You don't have to be afraid. The Bible tells us, fear not. But he does tell us to be wise as serpents. So exercise wisdom. Having faith in God isn't a license to be stupid, and not prepare. Even Joseph, when Joseph knew that he interpreted Pharaoh's dream and he knew it was going to feast, there was going to be a surplus of goods for 7 years, and then there was going to be a famine, he prepared. So that's what I would suggest that you do. So 23 years ago, I have this experience with God, and basically the first thing that he told me was that there was going to be a big war in the Middle East involving Israel. So getting the news that started for me is like, wow, this was the thing that God told me 23 years ago that I've been not waiting for, but I've just been like keeping an eye on Israel for a long time. Checking the news. Initially, I think I probably watched the news every day, because I was thinking, when God told me, I thought it was going to happen right then. And then at some point I realized, the word wasn't, he never said when. He just told me that it was going to happen, and now here it started. So this is why, again, I feel compelled to share this, to share these other two pieces of information with you, because they are going to impact every single person in the world. Every single person in the world will be affected in one way or another. So, we'll just get into it. The second thing that God shared with me, I don't remember in what order, to be honest. There were two other things that God shared with me, and I can't remember which one he told me first, but he basically said that the United States and China are going to go to war with each other, and he told me that the economy in the United States is going to collapse. The dollar is going to collapse. There's going to be an economic meltdown, like hyperinflation. I'm not sure if the dollar becomes worthless, but it becomes worth a lot less. So like this inflation thing that you're seeing now, it's going to continue, and it's going to get worse. So those were the two things. There was actually a fourth thing that he shared with me that wasn't as strong. Like, so sometimes I don't tell people, because it's more like I'm about 80% sure he told me. But the other three things I'm 100% sure. This thing I'm about 80% sure. But that was that there was going to be a gas shortage, that you're not going to be able to get much gasoline. So, if you know this again, this was 23 years ago. There wasn't much going on between United States and China relations. I don't think there was much tension. The economy was strong. There was not much inflation. I mean, everything was going well for the most part. But now what you're seeing is something like the writing's on the wall with some of these things. Our relationship couldn't be worse with China right now. If you Google U.S. China, the first thing word that pops up now in Google is a war. So people are talking about this. In fact, the United States general said that by 2025 we will be at war with China. Okay, and that was a general. You can Google that as well and check me on that. As far as the economy, banks failing, de-dollarization, other countries dropping the dollar, um, all the printing of money that we did during COVID, maybe that's what leads us to it. I can't say why, but I believe those things. I mean, you can kind of you're seeing it now with the inflation. So, again, what I would do if I were you, if I were, someone that believed this or even maybe partially believe this, I have to really, you'd almost have to be, you'd have to have your head in the sand to not see that this is coming. Things are changing really rapidly right now in this country. Things got really weird in the last 3 years, quick, weirder than they've ever gotten in history in a short amount of time. The Bible tells us when these things happen, lift your heads because your redemption draws nigh. This is what Jesus is telling us. This is the season. Like the fruit is ripe. Like look around. This is it. So what can we do to prepare for this? Like number one, get close to God. That's what you have to do is you have to stay close to God, whether that means going to church, reading the word, praying, learning to hear his voice, because there's going to be so much deception in the end. There's going to be so much confusion and chaos that you don't want to get duped. You don't want to fall for the strong delusion that Second Thessalonians talks about, because there's going to be this whatever lie that comes around, and there's going to be a real person that's an antichrist that's going to be very charming, and he's going to convince people that he has the answers, and there's going to be a mark of the beast and all these things. Maybe you've heard of, maybe you haven't. Maybe you've heard of them and you thought they were fairy tales, or maybe you're like, I don't know if that really is going to happen. They're going to happen, and they're going to happen soon. You're going to see these things. So you don't want to fall for the delusion. You don't want to buy into the lies. So knowing God's voice, having good discernment, having some Christians that you can lean on, call if you need something, share supplies, whatever would be useful. But getting close to God, number one, developing community, probably number two, but number three is don't keep a lot of cash in the bank. Like you don't want to be left holding the bag. When the shit goes down, when the shit hits the fan, there's a good chance that the banks will close. They'll lock the banks, and you're only going to be able to take so much money out per week, and the currency will be losing its value day to day. So by the time you get it, you're going to have to run out and hurry up and spend it. This is what happened in Argentina 20 years ago. The currency collapsed. You can look it up. They were the strongest economy in South America, rich in oil and all kinds of natural resources, but the currency collapsed due to corruption. So don't think it can't happen here. But so what you should do is you should take some of the money at least and buy gold and silver, because they're tangible assets and they can always be traded back in for dollars that you will need to go buy goods and services at some point, but it protects the value of the money. So like as the currency goes this way, gold and silver will go that way. And then when you need to, you can take an ounce of silver down to the whatever pawn shop or whoever's trading currency, or you could probably take it to the actual person that you're buying the goods and services off of, because everyone will know what it's worth. It's very easy to find out what an ounce of silver is worth. And you'll be able to trade that for equal amounts of those goods and services. So it's just a way to protect your wealth. Right now, I read the other day that the currency is losing 10% a year. So in 10 years, literally, you lose all your money. So you're guaranteed to lose if you hold cash. And you can blame this on our government, because they're spending crazy, giving billions of dollars to the Ukraine. I thought like I read somewhere that there was like a $6 billion mistake they couldn't find where the money went to the Ukraine. I'm like, it wasn't million with an M, it was a billion, $6 billion that they just don't know what happened to it. So other people's money, right? That no one's going to care about spending their own money they're not going to care about spending your money like they do their own. So transfer some of your money into gold and silver to protect yourself so you're not starving. Start a food pantry, potentially learn to shoot a gun and get something for self-defense. Those are the things that I've done to protect myself and that I'm recommending other people do. But I guess the one thing that I really wanted to say is that guys, the writing's on the wall with some of the stuff related to the end times. There's something else God told me that I'm not willing to share with anyone. Maybe one day. It's scary. It relates to the rapture and the end. And it personally knowing it has caused me to live in a completely different way because I want to be ready for his return. And I would just encourage anybody out there, like the person that I have the biggest hearts for are the people that are far from the Lord, because that was me, so I can't convince you to believe like that anything that I'm saying is true. Unfortunately, no one probably could have convinced me either. But if I can't convince you now, maybe later you'll watch this and know that there's no way I could have predicted these things were going to happen on my own. That somehow someone had to reveal these things to me because I don't have a crystal ball. So I would, but if you do even believe me on a percentage, like a small percentage, go out, buy some gold and silver. Call my guy Derek Savlakis at Monex. Actually, I'll tell you the number right now so you have it. 1-800-444-8317, extension 2206. I'll say that again. His name is Derek Savlakis. Actually, I'm going to drop it in the comments so everybody has it. This way they can just go ahead and give him a call. He's with a company called Monex. They're very reputable. They have low minimums and they save you money on fees. You save more money than if you were to buy gold and silver locally from like a gold shop or even from Goldco online. But you can give him a call. You can mention my name if you like. I've used him many times, and he will take good care of you. I actually just had a girl reach out from California, and she was asking me how to do this, and it was kind of what made me want to talk about it. So the other thing I would say is that what's going on with the border right now, the southern border, with all these people streaming in, all these men, grown-ass men, military-age men. One of the things that people are saying with this war is that it could lead to radicalization, right? So, like, obviously, Israel's a hated little country. They're surrounded by enemies, Muslims, that really hate them, and they want them to not exist. They want to push them into the sea, is what they've said. The destruction, that's what they're committed to, the destruction of Israel. So one of the things that people have said is this war can lead to a radicalization of people, a hatred, and that'll come out. And, like, if you think crime is bad now in America, when people get hungry and they're actually not able to eat, it's going to get really bad. So when I talk about, like, having some way to protect yourself, maybe putting some bars on your house, maybe getting a big dog. These are some of the things you should be thinking about. Like, if I took you into the basement, I'm not going to do it, but I would show you my food pantry. I mean, like, we have probably months of food down there because I know Jesus is coming back, but I don't want to starve until he gets here. You know what? It's going to be hard enough. Let's not have food. So those are my recommendations. You can do with them what you want. I can tell you that I'm 100% sure that these things happen. I have nothing to gain by telling you this. Like, I have a lot. I'm risking a lot because if I'm wrong, I look like I'll look stupid. But I know that God told me these things, and I would encourage you to prepare. So that's it. If anybody has any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. I'm not going to stay on here much longer because, again, I've made a video or two about these before, and I don't want to, beat a dead horse. But like I said, I know there's some new people that have connected, and I just want to sound the alarm. Really, is what I'm trying to do. Is sound the alarm and tell everybody to get ready, because we're in for some tough times ahead. America is in for some tough times for sure. If I didn't believe that God wanted me to stay in this country, I would probably move to Central America because I think it would be much more enjoyable and fun to live there, where there's not hopefully going to be a war. Maybe there will be. I don't know. I haven't heard anything about that, but I'd probably move to Costa Rica or something and just live a much simpler life. But I'm not sure, and maybe I still will. But right now, God hasn't told me to leave. So pray for Israel. Pray for the peace of Israel. The Bible tells us that you'll be blessed if you pray for the peace of Israel. So I would be praying for the people over there. I know there's already, I think, a couple hundred people have been killed. But what's crazy is how did this happen? Because it was like this sneak attack, this surprise attack, and Israel's got one of the best defense forces in the world. So how did this happen? How did they sucker punch them like this? It's weird, right? Like, it's almost like was it planned? Was there intelligence breakdown? But there's a lot of strange things happening in the world. It reminds me almost of Hawaii, the fires in Hawaii. Like, there was a lot of suspicious stuff around that too. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I don't know. I don't have an answer, but I do know that if you're not preparing right now with everything that you can see that's happening in the world, especially in America, like America's just, it's collapsing, like from the border to the fentanyls, overdoses, to the promiscuity, to the gender dysphoria, to our government, like all of these things, we're just falling apart. We're a shell of who we used to be, and tough times are ahead for this country. So do what you need to do to protect yourself and your family. Donate to Israel. One thing y'all do is donate to Israel so she can defeat the devil. Who said that? I can't see who it was. Hey, Heather, how are you? Norma. Yes. Okay, well, thank you, Norma. Yeah, this is why I did it, because I know there's some people out there like you. You want to go to Costa Rica, Heather? Let's do it. Let's buy some land. We'll start a commune. Yeah, that's it. We took God out, and that was probably the beginning of the end for America. Let's go. Yeah, I mean, what's crazy, or just upside down and backwards, is how somehow they got the Bible out of school, but got drag queens in school. How in the hell did that happen? How is a drag queen less offensive than the Bible? Like, or just, I don't understand how we got to this point sometimes, and who was in charge. So anyway, any advice for Europe? I don't know. So this is what, actually, that's a great question, Norm. I'm glad you asked that, because this is what God told me. He didn't tell me, he said there was going to be a depression, a global depression, but it was going to start in America, and then it was going to be a global depression, or it was going to be a global depression. It was going to be a economic collapse in America and lead to a global depression, basically. So if America's economy falls, then the euro and probably the other currencies are going to fall somehow too. I'm not an economist, so I don't understand how that relationship works. But if I were you and I had a significant amount of money, or even if you don't have a significant amount, take what you can and go down and or call my guy if you have at least 2,500, buy from Monex, because that's their minimum, and you'll pay less in fees. If you only have a couple $100s or whatever, go to like a local gold and silver dealer and get what you can. Junk silver is, quarters and dimes that were made prior to 1965. You can buy those for, like they're 90% silver. It's like a quarter that was made prior to 1965, and it's 90% silver, and you can buy those for like, I think it's something like 15 times the whatever the quarter. So it'd be like 15 times 25 cents or something like that. So maybe a quarter would be like $4, let's say. And then what's going to happen is when you need to trade that back in as silver goes up, that quarter will become worth a lot more. If you have a little money local, if you have a lot of money online, but definitely that should be part of your portfolio is precious metals. Is what I would say. Some people talk about crypto. I don't know about crypto well enough to know if that will be good or not. 100%, Heather. I know it sounds crazy. Take the penalty, get the money, and go. Whatever you lose on the penalty, you will make back when this happens. But I know people say, I was talking to that girl in California today, and she said, she's pulling her money out, and they're like, well, it's insured up until this point. Look, what's going to happen when everything collapses? They can't insure everything. Who's backing it? Like the government, based off, what is the currency backed off of it based on? There's no gold, there's no silver. It's only people's faith in the dollar. That's all that holds it up, is the people's belief in it. So yes, I would pull my retirement out, and I would personally, if you were me, knowing what I know, is I would put 90% of it or more into precious metals, and I would either put it in a safe or bury it somewhere, or yeah, I wouldn't even let anybody hold it personally, because the government can seize your gold. They've done it before. So not to say that that's going to happen, but it could happen. So that's what I'd suggest. Don't be afraid. We don't have to be afraid as believers. Pray and ask the Spirit if what I'm saying is true. If you feel peace about it and it resonates with you, act on it, and take my suggestions for what to do to prepare. And feel free to drop me any questions if you have any about anything I said. But yeah, we'll see. It's exciting times. I mean, everyone in the Bible longed to see this. The second coming. This is what it's leading up to. And I know people think I'm crazy when I say that. I think, but one day they'll know. Everybody thought Moses or Noah was crazy until it started to rain. So anyway, I'll talk to y'all later. Have a great Saturday. See you.